They went on a fancy cruise, paid for with my help, and didn't even invite me. When I asked why, Dad said, "Why would we bring the outsider?" I paused and said, "Got it." The next morning, Mom left me a voicemail, "We're waiting on the money." A few hours later, the cruise company froze their account, security kicked them off the ship. I got 17 missed calls, 42 texts, one message came from a police number. I had found out about the trip on Instagram. There was a photo of my mom, dad, and younger brother Steven smiling on a cruise ship deck. They were holding champagne glasses, dressed in matching white outfits, looking like they were on a reality show. The caption said, "Bon voyage, family trip of a lifetime." Weird. No one told me anything about it. I stared at the photo, not sure if I should laugh or just turn off my phone. 3 weeks ago, I sent Dad $3,200 to help with his second mortgage, again. 2 weeks ago, I sent Steven $400 for books, even though he had already dropped out of college. 5 days ago, Mom called crying, saying they couldn't afford the heating bill for winter. But somehow, they had enough money for a Caribbean cruise. And they didn't even think to invite me. I called, mostly because I was curious. Dad picked up after 3 rings. "Oh," he said when he heard my voice. "No, hello, no, how are you? So, you made it on board," I said, keeping calm. There was a long pause, then he said, "Yeah, we figured we deserved a break. It's been a tough year." "Sure," I said, "and I guess I'm not family enough for this trip." His reply was cold. "Why would we bring the outsider?" I let the silence sit, then I said, "Noted," and hung up. The next morning, Mom left a voicemail. Her voice was soft and sweet, like it always was when she wanted something. "Honey, we're waiting on the money. Can you send it today? The ship's internet is bad, and we still need to pay for the excursions." That was the last straw. An hour later, I went to the cruise line's website. I still had the receipt from when I paid their deposit. They'd used my card, just temporarily. Turns out, that gave me some control. By noon, their onboard account was frozen. By 2 p.m., they were kicked off the ship in front of everyone. They were shouting about betrayal and lawsuits. By 5 p.m., I had 17 missed calls, 42 texts, and a voicemail from the police. I played the voicemail on speaker. A serious voice said, "This is Officer Reynolds from the Port Authority. We need to speak with you about a financial matter involving your family. Please call us back as soon as possible." I leaned back, holding my phone, and for the first time in years, I smiled. I should have seen this coming. The cruise wasn't the beginning, just the breaking point. The damage had been building for years. It started small. After college, I got my first real job and moved into a tiny apartment. The next day, Dad asked me for money for a surprise plumbing issue. "We'll pay you back soon," he said. I never saw that money again. Then Steven started asking. He had dropped out of college, though he kept saying it was just temporary. I paid for his tuition, books, rent, everything. I even bought him a new laptop after he spilled Red Bull on the old one while writing a paper he never finished. At first, I thought this was what good sons and big brothers did. I didn't have a stable home growing up, so maybe I just wanted to be the person I needed back then. But the asks never stopped, and I never heard a "thank you." It was always, "You got us, right?" That's when I realized, I wasn't helping my family, I was funding their lifestyle. They weren't broke, they just didn't want to use their own money. Dad still went golfing every weekend, Mom got her hair done regularly, Steven had the latest phone, AirPods, and a gym membership with a smoothie bar. Meanwhile, I was eating ramen noodles and working overtime to stay afloat. They knew I wouldn't say no. They used guilt to get what they wanted, and if I hesitated, they gave me the silent treatment. Worst of all, they didn't even respect me. Once, when I said I needed to cut back, Dad laughed and said, "You're not married, no kids, what else are you going to spend your money on?" It was like he believed he was entitled to my money. Steven once joked, "You're just jealous I'm the golden child." Mom laughed, she didn't even deny it. Looking back, the breaking point was probably last Thanksgiving. I bought all the groceries, over $400, and cooked half the meal. Steven showed up late, smelling like weed, and gave everyone cheap socks, probably from a gas station. At dinner, the topic turned to money. Steven leaned back, smirked, and said, "Well, at least I'm not living alone and sad like someone I know." He looked right at me, the whole room laughed. Dad even slapped the table. "Come on, don't be mean," Dad said, without even looking at me. "Your brother helps out a lot." Like I was just a background character in their story, someone useful, but not important. Later that night, while I was helping clean up, I heard them talking in the kitchen. Mom said, "He's always so dramatic. If he's not going to start a family, he can at least support ours." Steven replied, "I swear, I think he stays single on purpose. More money for us. They didn't know I was standing in the hallway. I didn't say anything. I wish I could tell you I walked in and told them off, but I didn't. I drove home, sat in my car for an hour, and tried to convince myself I was overthinking it. But the worst manipulation? It's the quiet kind, the kind you don't notice until you're in too deep to breathe. 2 weeks before the cruise, Mom called again, said she needed a little help to pay Steven's rent. I sent the money without thinking. Then I saw Steven's Instagram story. He was at a rooftop bar in Miami, 2 nights in a row. The caption, deserved. The next morning, I asked him where the rent money went. He said, I used it to breathe. That's okay, right? Then added, also, it's not your business how I manage my life. You sound like Dad when you get like this. I stared at that message until my phone went dark. That was the moment I knew I was done. Not just done helping, done pretending. Done being the safety net. Done being the one they blame when things go wrong. Done being the outsider who only gets a call when there's a problem, but never a seat at the table. The final straw? Steven called me a few days before they left for the cruise. He wanted me to put $1,500 on my card for something urgent. He wouldn't say what. I told him no. He sighed. Man, you're acting real weird lately, kinda cold, don't you think? Cold, I said, or finally awake? He didn't say anything, just hung up. 2 days later, they were on that cruise, holding champagne, smiling for the camera like they were the perfect family. That made everything easier. When Mom left that voicemail asking for more money, as if nothing had happened, I remembered something. They had used my card to book the cruise, just temporarily. So I used my rights to cancel it. They called it betrayal. I called it balance. They came home the next day, and it didn't stop with silence. I got flooded with texts, voicemails, and phone calls from family I hadn't heard from in years. When I checked my email, there were messages from my uncle in Phoenix, my aunt in Jersey, even a cousin I barely remembered, all of them telling me how disappointed they were. Apparently, my parents told everyone I canceled the cruise out of spite and left them stranded like criminals. No one said a word about how I paid for the cruise in the first place. No one asked why my card was even on the booking. Nope, I was the villain again. But the real blow-up came that evening. I was sitting on my couch when someone knocked. I just knew it was them. I almost didn't open the door, but something in me wanted to face them. All 3 of them were standing there. Dad looked angry. Mom had red eyes and a fake smile. Steven stood off to the side, jaw twitching like he had something prepared. You think this is funny? Dad barked before I could speak. I leaned on the door frame. Come. No, I said, I think it's justice. You humiliated us, Mom cried. They dragged us off the ship in front of everyone. Do you know how that felt? Probably like being called an outsider by your own father, I said. Dad stepped forward. We're your family. No, I said. You're people I send money to out of guilt. That's not family, that's debt. Steven snapped. You've always been bitter. You think having money makes you better than us? You think it gives you the right to punish us? No, I said, but it gives me the right to stop paying to be treated like trash. Steven scoffed. We don't need you. Oh, I said, then why are you here? He didn't answer. Mom jumped in. We were trying to include you. I laughed. You called me an outsider. I was angry, Dad said. People say things. And I remember all of them, I said, but don't worry, you'll remember mine too. I walked inside, grabbed a folder, and tossed it onto the coffee table in front of them. What's that? Steven asked. Receipts, I said. Every bill I've paid for you over the last 5 years. Tuition, rent, electric, everything. It adds up to $63,478. Mom's voice dropped. You kept track? No, I said. I started last month. After I found out they planned that cruise without me, my dad laughed, but it wasn't a happy laugh. So what now? You want us to pay you back? No, I said, looking him straight in the eye. I want you to leave and never ask me for anything again. Steven looked like he might come at me, but then something unexpected happened. I warned you this would happen, a voice said behind them. They turned. It was my aunt, Mom's sister. She came in through the side gate, holding her phone and a stack of printed papers. I tried to tell you, she said. He's not the problem, you are. What are you doing here, Carla? Dad snapped. She walked into the room like she had waited for this moment forever. I saw the texts, she said, the ones where you told the family you were going to cut him off, after he paid for the cruise. I froze. Carla looked at me and said softly, they planned to cut contact after the trip. Your mom even said she'd block you right after the last payment. I looked at my mom. She didn't say a word. She couldn't even meet my eyes. You are going to shut me out, I said, after I paid for everything? Mom whispered, it wasn't like that. Then what was it like? She said nothing. Carla delivered the final blow. They asked me to lie to you, she said. Said I should tell you Steven needed surgery so you'd send money quicker. I said no. I sat down, not because I was weak, but because I was tired. For years, I thought I was the one with the problem, that I didn't care enough, but the truth was, I was the only one who saw what was really going on. Steven stormed out. Dad followed. Mom stood there for a moment like she might say something. Maybe she'd apologize, maybe she'd cry, but all she said was, I hope you're happy. I walked to the door, opened it, and said, I'm not happy, but I'm finally free. And then I closed the door, for good. 2 days later, I got a call from a blocked number. I ignored it, then another, and another. Finally, I picked up, ready to tell them off. But it wasn't them. This is Officer Reynolds from Port Authority. We spoke before. I need to ask you a few questions, ideally in person. My heart sank. He was calm, but something felt off. What's this about? I asked. He paused. It's about a false report made by your parents and brother. They claimed you used their information to cancel their cruise without permission. I was speechless. I didn't, I began. He cut me off. We already checked. The cruise was booked with your card. The account was in your name. The address matched yours. Then why did they lie? I asked. That's the issue, he said. We need an official statement. The next morning, I went to the Port Authority office with my friend Marcus, a lawyer. I brought everything, receipts, emails, screenshots. Officer Reynolds laid it all out. When the account was frozen, they told the cruise company you pretended to be them to ruin their vacation. I blinked. I paid for it. He nodded. We know. They said you offered to help, then used your card to control them. I was furious. That's not control, that's generosity. They're not pressing charges, he said, but the cruise line is. Your family tried to dispute the charge after enjoying 2 days on board. That's fraud. Unbelievable. They tried to cheat me and the cruise line. Then Reynolds leaned in. But it gets worse. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were printed screenshots of messages. One from Steven to my mom. He thinks he's smart, let him pay for it. Once we're on the ship, he can't touch us. One from Mom to Dad. Let him feel useful, we'll block him after the last payment. They had used the cruise Wi-Fi under my name. The cruise line saved everything. I sat in silence, fists tight. I had helped them, supported them, and they planned to dump me once they got what they wanted. I wasn't family, I was a tool. But the worst part came next. There's more, Reynolds said. I wasn't sure I should show you this, but one of the messages mentioned your job. My eyes snapped up. He passed me another printout. A message from Steven to someone named Darren. You work at his office, right? HR or something? You should tell them he's acting unstable. Maybe it'll get him fired. I stared at it. Steven had tried to get me fired. He messaged someone I barely knew, trying to ruin my career, to isolate me completely. I couldn't speak. Marcus leaned in. Can we get copies of these? Reynolds nodded. You're going to need them. That night, I didn't sleep, not because I was scared, but because I finally saw the truth. They didn't just use me, they wanted to erase me. And they almost did. The next morning, I packed up the rest of my stuff. My lease was ending soon anyway. I called my new landlord, signed the final papers online, and sent one last message to all of them. We're done. No more calls, no guilt. You tried to ruin my life and my job. And you failed. Don't ever speak my name again. Then I blocked all their numbers, their emails, even changed mine. Things were quiet for a few days, then I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just one line inside. You did this to yourself. No name, but I knew that handwriting. It was Steven. The same brother who said he didn't need me. The same one who tried to ruin my life. And now, he was still blaming me. I thought about throwing it away, or burning it. Instead, I pinned it to my fridge like a trophy. A reminder of what I survived, and that I was never going back. It's been 6 months now. I live in a different city, smaller, quieter. The kind of place where the coffee shop remembers your name, and the landlord actually fixes stuff. My new apartment isn't fancy, 1 bedroom, plain walls, a squeaky couch. But it's mine, paid with my own money, in my name. No guilt, no fake emergencies, no missed calls full of manipulation. Just peace. During the first week, I kept checking my phone out of habit, waiting for something, anything. But nothing came. They really let go. No apologies, no explanations, just silence. It should have hurt, but it didn't. Because when you leave people who only used you, you don't miss them. You miss who you pretended they were. I stopped pretending. I got a new job, with better hours. I started sleeping better. Not the half asleep waiting for a crisis kind of sleep. Real sleep. I joined a boxing gym, just light stuff. But hitting the bag helps. It reminds me I exist, that I'm solid, grounded. And I laugh again, for real. Not the fake laugh I used to give when Steven insulted me and Dad called it, just joking. Some people say I burned bridges. I didn't. I just walked away from a house that was already on fire. Then another letter came. But this one wasn't angry. It had a return address I didn't recognize. Inside was a short note, written in neat, shaky handwriting. You don't know me, I'm Officer Reynolds' wife. He told me what your family did and how long you stayed. He doesn't usually talk about cases, but he kept talking about you. He said, this man didn't just protect himself, he protected his future. I just wanted to say, walking away takes more strength than staying. Some of us noticed. With respect. Marlon R. I sat still, holding that note. Someone saw me. Not because I yelled, not because I fought. Because I walked away, and never looked back. I pinned that note to the fridge, right above Steven's. 2 notes, one full of blame, one full of truth. Proof that I'm not crazy. Proof that silence can say more than shouting ever could. Proof that no matter how loud the guilt tries to be, peace is louder. I haven't heard from them since. But a friend back home told me Steven lost his job. HR found some weird messages he sent. He tried to blame me again. No one believed him. Dad's business closed. Turns out, when you treat people like tools, they stop helping when things break. And Mom? I heard she's telling people I cut them off without warning. That I just turned cold. But I don't respond, not with anger, not with explanations. Just silence.